Hey guys, welcome to the Asian Hustle Network podcast. My name is Brian.
And my name is Maggie.
And we interview Asian entrepreneurs around the world to amplify their voices and empower Asians to pursue their dreams and goals.
We believe that each person has a message and a unique story from their entrepreneurial journey that they can share with all of us. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Asian Hustle Network podcast. My name is Maggie.
My name is Brian.
And today we have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Ming Zhao, and she is the co-founder and CEO of Proven Skincare. Ming, welcome to the show. Can you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about yourself to our general audience?
Yeah, happy to. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Brian. I'm Ming. I am currently the co-founder and CEO of Proven Skincare. At Proven, we create personalized skincare products that are based on more than 47 factors about you, including your gene expression, your environment, your lifestyle, and your skin concerns. Mm-hmm. I am an immigrant. I moved to the States from China at the age of 12, not speaking a word of English. I am also a third generation entrepreneur. Both my father and my grandfather were entrepreneurs in China prior to me founding Proven in the States. And I'm also a mother to a 2.5-year-old. So my company, Proven, and my daughter are actually the same age.
That's amazing. Wow. Well, it's pretty amazing to hear that, you did come from a family of entrepreneurs. And how was that experience like? How did that shape and influence you and help you become the person that you are today?
Yeah, I think the most obvious thing is that it made most people in my family pretty fearless. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. He himself actually, when he was 19 years old, escaped a famine. So there was a famine where he was from in the middle of the country. Mm-hmm. His family were farmers. He was the oldest child in the family. He had 6 younger siblings, and they were, in danger of starving to death, like actually starving to death. Mm-hmm. So he walked like 1,900 kilometers from where he was to a big city in the northern part of China. Mm-hmm. He, baked himself a bunch of bread, carried the bread, worked along his way. And in the new city, he opened up a bakery, more of a bakery cart, making the type of bread that they eat in his own hometown. Right. And that's how he actually supported his entire family and kept his entire family from starving. Mm-hmm. And sent all his money back home. And eventually he helped his own family move to this new city as well. So I think with that experience, my father was actually among the first generation of entrepreneurs when China first allowed entrepreneurship in the 1980s. So when Deng Xiaoping opened up the economy, so weird. Prior to that, during the time of Mao, it's so weird to think that entrepreneurship wasn't allowed, but it actually wasn't allowed. That's what true communism was. That it none of this elements of ingenuity was allowed. So as soon as Deng Xiaoping opened up the economy, my father became among the first wave of entrepreneurs to open his own company. Which at that time, people really loved their iron rice bowls, which were basically guaranteed work and pension for life. So people, once they had these great jobs, they didn't want to leave because it was guaranteed by the government. Mm-hmm. But my father wasn't afraid to leave that kind of situation for something that, that he really believed in. Mm-hmm. Even though there were a lot of voices around him that said, why would you do this? Why would you do that? Things don't change that much. The type of pressure that people feel now, they might have felt then, or maybe even more so. So he was not afraid. He, was very determined. And when I was 12 years old, he actually expanded that operation to the States. And that's what allowed us all to move to the U.S. at the age of 12, actually, to Florida, which is also a pretty random place for, a Chinese family to move to, South Florida.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing story too, and to hear that, you came from such an awesome line of entrepreneurship, and that's exactly what we're trying to capture on Asian Hustle Network. It's a lot of us we want to be entrepreneurs. We are entrepreneurs. We're trying to be successful, and to hear that, you come from a family that has not walked the traditional path of becoming like a doctor or a lawyer or engineer.
Right.
It's really inspiring for us to hear that, like, your dad went for something that he really believed in.
Yeah,
And it feels like
absolutely.
he taught you these values too, that entrepreneurship is the way to go. And we love it. We love it so much.
Yeah, and I love that because I feel like it's still relevant today. You talking about your grandfather going through the entrepreneurial route, and a lot of people in his generation wouldn't do the same because they were promised security, right? And that's very relevant today too. I think a lot of people are scared to go through entrepreneurship because they want that security and they want a secure job. But it's really believing in, your business and believing that you can do it and breaking out of that mold and breaking out of that shell. It's really going to drive you forward, which, obviously your grandfather was able to do. And
yeah, I think the most secure thing is to believe in yourself and your capability. There's nothing in the world that promises security. The government in China did promise, lifetime employment. And then, things happen, and then all of a sudden it wasn't lifetime. So, and, now there are companies too, that people might work for a very stable, big company, but then, things change, in such unexpected ways, like we're seeing with COVID. Nothing is promised. The only thing that you could trust is your own abilities, your own efforts, and belief that you can do what is necessary. We now live in a society where, thankfully very few people are actually in fear of not being able to feed themselves, right? Like that was a real concern that my grandfather went through. So, with this great situation that we're in, I think it's even more so that we shouldn't be afraid to do something a little more daring, because you might really surprise yourself.
Yeah, 100% agree with that statement too. And what type of values and lessons did your grandpa and your dad teach you growing up? You're such a confident, strong person. We want to learn a lot more about like how you became the person you are today. And
my grandfather actually died when I was pretty young. So, but what I do remember about him was that he was always very smiley. He was always smiling. He was always very gentle. And he always believed in the good of people. In fact, he made some money with that little bakery cart that the entire family participated in. Some people, some of my aunts and uncles, milled wheat. Others, the entire process. So he made a little bit of money and then actually lost it because he, tried to invest in other entrepreneurs to, make their own dreams, but not all of that succeeded. But nevertheless, he never really, complained about that. He was always just very grateful for the life that he had, for the family that he had around him, even though, he's experienced poverty, he's experienced some affluence, for that time. And then he experienced somewhere in between, he was just, in general, all of those situations didn't affect him that much. It was just the fact that he had, his children and eventually his grandchildren. They were all around him. They spent time with him. And I just remember him being very happy, even though, from a material perspective, later on, he didn't have that much.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's a really important characteristic. And I think that's why, your grandfather, your father, and yourself are so successful, because those values were handed down to you. And it really takes, someone to push through and fight through that adversity and the struggles and challenges in order to succeed. A lot of people feel like the slightest, challenge that they go through, they often, feel like they've already failed and don't push through.
It's all about mindset, being optimistic,
Yeah. It's so difficult. Because the thing was, mindset, unfortunately, is you can't train for it in a vacuum. You can't just, you can't try to train for it like you're in a gym. You really have to be in a real situation where you need to have, strength and mental strength and resilience to build it. So it's probably some of the most painful lessons one has to learn. And for me, I definitely try to, try to keep that in mind. Like for me, starting the company, having gone through so many ups and downs, it's at times very easy to feel like, when is this going to, have any results? When is this going to, feel like it's worthwhile? Which is why I feel like, thinking about what made my grandfather happy, it makes so much sense because for me, as I mentioned, my daughter is the same age as my company. So when I was starting my company, people were like, that's a really bad idea to, when you're pregnant to start a startup at the same time. So many people from really good intentions, my friends and mentors at our startup were like, you should really maybe just put something on hold. But we just, both my co-founder and I, in fact, my co-founder, Amy, is a computational physicist from Stanford. She was also pregnant at the same time as we started our company. It was just,
that's crazy.
That's
bad timing or weird timing, whatever it is. And everybody just thought that we were just crazy, two pregnant women starting a venture-backed company and having a lot of ambition. We weren't just trying to start like a little sort of, mom and pop thing. But we pushed through it. And I would have to say that having my daughter is like a secret sauce for me. It's like a secret weapon, because even when it feels bleak, and it often does, I think there are more bleak days, especially in the early days, than there are days of hope. And even when it feels very tedious, and there are many tedious days as well. Most days you're just, crunching through things, checking boxes, and just doing things, which could be very tedious. Even during those days, having my daughter next to me, who is just happy and joyous and smiling. And even when I'm having a bad day or if somebody doesn't believe in me or, people question me, my capabilities, my company, there's somebody there who always loves me and trusts me and thinks that I'm the best thing in the world. Having that kind of support is so absolutely necessary. So I actually have to credit being able to continue and to get to where we're at because, we have these, little supporters behind us. So that we did not expect going into this.
Yeah, that makes one heck of a difference, just knowing that you have someone depending on you.
Yeah.
Just through the darker days. And entrepreneurship is hard.
Absolutely.
There's so many down days, so many days where you question yourself and you look yourself in the mirror and be like, I could have had an easier life.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and there are many doubters, like people like, whether it's investors or, mentors or, people talk to you about competitors or, whatever. There's just there are many more haters along the way than people who, people who support you. But I think that's just the normal course of action. You hear any of those successful companies, right? Even like like the Netflix of the world, like people didn't believe them in the beginning either, right? So it's like everybody eventually who succeeds was at some point an underdog. And I think for everyone out there, you just have to believe in that and to know that and to not think that you're an exception because people don't believe in you. That's the norm. People won't believe in you until they can't not believe in you.
Yeah, I mean, that's entrepreneurship 101. And the fact that you do have haters means you're doing something right.
That's right.
If no one hates on you, you're like, wait, am I doing this right?
Yeah, exactly. But I love that you look to your daughter for inspiration and you know for a fact that your daughter will never be a hater. So I think a lot of people find that their children are their purpose and their why. And I love that, It's really like our shining light in our life. And,
definitely. We do want to trace it back a bit too. Like right before you started Proven, like what were you doing? What was the inspiration for Proven as you're working your professional career? And have it's been in the back of your mind for a while? And is this your first company, your second company, your third?
Yeah. So for me, even though I had this entrepreneurial lineage, I guess I didn't think that I was necessarily going to be an entrepreneur because, we had immigrated to the States. There's, the States is full of, great, secure, interesting, well-paying jobs. So my initial plan was to, take one of those and, have a great, I guess, relaxing lifestyle. So the first job I took out of college was I was a management consultant at BCG because I knew I wanted to be in business, but I didn't know exactly, what in the general sort of concept of business I wanted to do. And people had told me that management consulting, you can get a great foundation. So that's what I did. It was interesting. It really gave me, I think, a good, strategic and operational understanding of this general concept of business. But I knew that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. And at the time, I couldn't put my finger on it. It's possibly because, as a consultant, you're kind of an agency. You're not the person who is actually operating. You're not a person making decisions. You're like an advisor,
Right.
So for me, there was always just a little bit of, a little bit of urge to try to do more. But, of course, there's a limit to how much you could do.
Right.
And then after that, a friend who was at BCG before went on to work at Bain Capital in private equity. And I thought that, sounded really interesting. So he told me more about it. And I then joined Bain Capital in private equity investing. So I started in the Boston office, which is the headquarters. And then since I'm fluent in Mandarin still, moved to the Hong Kong office, which was just starting at the time. So this was 2008, which means that, it's really crazy to think of that private equity as an industry didn't really quite, exist much in Asia. And look at, where it is now, just, 10, 12 years later, you can't even think of a time when it didn't exist. That just shows you how fast the world changes and adapts to things. So those 2 years was also a very intense training for understanding business intuition, for understanding, what makes a business a great business. Because, Bain Capital and other top private equity companies like that, what they do is they try to find the top 1, 2, or 3, depending on the size of the market, players in a particular market. They add more money into it. They help with some operational expertise, best practices, and try to make those players even more valuable. So the first step is to find these top players and then understand what makes them top players. So that kind of training and learning from these, experts in business was really valuable. At the same time, these kind of roles, in finance really are very intense. They really take a toll on you. So for me, I was working, 12, 14-hour days consistently, and Hong Kong wasn't my home. I was far away from my friends and my family. So I remember waking up one day and feeling like I was really aging much faster than I would have liked. I was in my 20s, but looking much older. It's kind of like, it reminds me of, when Obama first became president and what he looked like. And then, you see photos of after, and you see the before and after, and it's really quite stark. That's what I felt like. So at that time, I started buying all kinds of expensive skincare products to try to, regain my youth. And I felt like, they all promised miracles, but it really didn't do anything. It felt like a conspiracy. It felt like, I was a chump that along with my other good, girlfriends, we all felt like we were just betrayed repeatedly by these big brands who were making beautifully packaged, expensive products that didn't end up doing anything. So, that sort of planted a seed in my head, this sort of, this frustration with this industry. And then after leaving Bain Capital and private equity, I went on a little bit of a sort of self-recovery, like eat, pray, love kind of journey for a couple of months. And after searching for a while, actually came upon a specialist who created personalized skincare products based on first understanding your skin, understanding your life, and then, putting exactly what's needed into a few bottles. And I feel like using those personalized products were the first time that I saw a difference with my skin. So I was like, this makes so much sense, because for all the care in our body, in our organs, it's all tailored to exactly what you need and what that organ needs. Our skin is our body's largest organ. Why do we do such a, one size fits all generic marketing focused approach to it? It really makes no sense. It's quite antiquated. And in fact, the skincare industry hadn't had any innovation for about 60 years, which is just crazy for how big and fast growing and important of an industry it is to its customers. It's people consider it essential, So for me, the epiphany really was taking a personalized approach to skincare. And then later on, I was introduced to my co-founder, Amy, who Amy is a computational physicist from Stanford. She was introduced to me by my then boyfriend, now husband, who was like, oh, this is a tremendous technologist. She also has entrepreneurial aspirations. Maybe you guys will hit it off. And lo and behold, we became friends. We really, liked each other. Our sort of backgrounds had a good melding. For me with a business background, for her with a deep technology background.
Right.
And, Amy is also no sort of regular scientist, data scientist. She actually, when she was getting her PhD, she broke the world record for the largest computational simulation on a supercomputer in the world. Wow. So she was kind of like, a like a quantum computer before there was quantum computing. So, lo and behold, she also had her own skincare issues that she found her own way of addressing. So she had a skin condition called atopic dermatitis, which she's had for a long time, which is very very irksome. And the products on the market really weren't helping her that much. And for her, she used her data science background to build a large database that found all the scientific studies from research articles, as well as all the consumer testimonials from people using different products to try to solve this issue. And then she ran machine learning algorithms through this database to then understand how different individual ingredients affect different people. And that's how she found a solution for her skin. So for us, when we started Proven, we basically combined our mutual epiphanies of personalization and using data to know how to personalize to create Proven. So that's how Proven first got started.
That is amazing. And I 100% agree, like being a female and trying to find skincare that's perfect for myself. Like I totally agree with you that like big beauty products tend to not work on anyone. And it's super, super hard to find the product that works just for you because, everyone's skincare or skin type is different. Right. And I feel like I often find myself, looking for skincare products that work for me. And they always say, oh, this is good for dry skin or this is good for oily skin, but it never works out quite that way. And I love that personalization phase to it. I think that's really important. I think you mentioned there are like 47 different types of factors that go into.
That's right.
Right. And I know you mentioned, like weather has a lot to do with it or the pollution in your city. And so I love that you're taking, those type of factors and really being a game changer in that industry because there's so many players in that industry. And for you to kind of differentiate yourself from that market and really, hone into what the customer needs it's super important.
Yeah, and I'll admit it too. I can't, I know you guys talking about like skincare stuff. And most guys won't talk about it, but I admit it's pretty hard to find stuff for my skin too because I feel like I'm allergic to like 90% of things out there. So thank you for creating this product. we do want to emphasize some point in your story as well. I mean, the power connection too,
Yeah.
it's just, you never know who you're going to meet. I feel like you're going to spot out opportunities with the right mindset, knowing that you want to do something. It's crazy how that happens in the world, right? When you want to do something, when you start telling people about it, people start making the connection for you because it's just like a subconscious human thing. It's like, oh wow, Ming, you want to do this? Wait, I know so and so that wants to do something similar. Maybe you guys can work together, So part of that story is like, be open to your ideas. Like, there's so much fear that someone's gonna steal your idea and do it so much better than you. That whole part is, to me, is not something that you should be concerned about, because when you create a company, your personality, your mindset, your heart and soul is imprinted in this company, and that part cannot be duplicated. There's so much stigma that we see in Asian Hustle Network. Before, when you first started the group, people were posting business ideas, and people will comment underneath there and be like, why are you sharing your business idea? People are going to steal it. And to me, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. You should be sharing your ideas so it gets refined, because no one can copy who you are as a person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's really like, 99.9% hustle. Yeah. And the idea is just, a tiny little thing in it. So, absolutely, Brian.
Right. And I think it goes back to kind of like the Asian culture, right? A lot of Asian people don't like to share their business ideas because they're scared that people might steal it, right? But the truth of the matter is that no one can really do it like how you do it. You have your own style, right? And I feel like a lot of people in the Asian culture, at least, like they like to keep to themselves, and they feel that if they succeed, they can't have their peers succeed, and vice versa. But we always talk about in AHN, that's not true at all. We can all succeed.
And we like the fact that you're so public about your company and who you are. You are essentially the brand of the company. And this mentality that we talk to, it's so necessary for the Asian community. We need, when we look around for heroes that we need to look up to in different industries, like we don't find much Asian entrepreneurs in the public about what they do.
Right.
And we found this a lot as we're doing the Asian Hustle Network podcast. The most of the founders who found their companies like early on tend to be in the back. Like they're just like, hey, look, I don't want people to know I have this company,
right?
Because there's something negative about being looked up to, being like jealous, and all these problems that come with that. And we talk to them. And the biggest thing that they always tell us is they wish they were more public with their company in the past.
Right.
They were so and they were so into the Asian belief that they never built their personal brand.
Yeah.
So companies that we see all around us are actually, some of them are founded by Asian founders that we never knew.
Yeah.
And we love you talking here because you essentially do represent the newer generation of Asian entrepreneurs. It's essentially asking, why not us? Why not me?
Yeah.
Why can't I be public?
Yeah.
And especially as a female founder and like female minority founder as well, like you're super inspirational to hear like that you are pushing for this. And we do want to hear more about your experience starting up too, because we know like there's a lot of microaggressions out there in the business world that you do feel sometimes like you are being pushed back a lot just because of your color of your skin, your race, the way you look. It's all relevant. We do want to hear more about that experience too, so we can help pivot your story to motivate a newer generation to just push through and know what to expect too.
Yeah, and I'd like to add on top of that, we really appreciate you being on the forefront of the brand, and on top of Brian's questions about the microaggressions or anything that you faced while being an entrepreneur. Even on top of that, on top of being a member of a minority, what about being a woman as well? Being a member of a minority and a woman, those are two very, very important topics. We'd love to hear your insight on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to your earlier point about whether it's, the modesty that is so sort of ingrained in our culture, or that fear that, once I give my, one great idea out, that somebody's going to steal it and do their own thing with it. I think that all comes down to a little bit of self-consciousness. of, not believing in oneself enough. Because, if you really did believe in your capabilities and how great your idea is together, then you will know that only you can make this thing that you so believe so much into reality. It's not knowing the knowledge, it's really feeling it and feeling passionate about it. So I think we all could do more to just feel more confident in general that, we can achieve what we believe ardently, regardless of what people say. And I think that's also another piece to this. As I mentioned, my co-founder Amy is a award-winning record-breaking data scientist. She has led data science teams at Fortune 10 companies and other leading data startups that have raised a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And yet when we were starting this company together, people would look at us, venture capitalists, other people would look at us like we're just two girls starting like a small cosmetic brand. And we would tell them that there's a lot of technology and data science and AI infused to what we're doing. It's not just a small skincare idea. And they would just not believe it, despite how revered Amy is. It's hard to find somebody who's more sort of technologically and data savvy than she is.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So if somebody like her gets brushed aside when it comes to technology, then who is not brushed aside? Mm-hmm. And I think that just speaks to the industry in general, where I don't know if we were dismissed because we were females, or because people know that we're like new mothers, mm-hmm. or that we're Asian. Who knows what it is? It's something. Or maybe even if somebody else had this idea, maybe it's just about the idea. Maybe they anybody else with the idea, they would have still thought it was far-fetched to bring data science and personalization into skincare. Who knows? Right. But regardless, I'm not going to sit there and try to dissect why they don't like me. I'm just going to move on to the next person. Mm-hmm. And eventually I'll find somebody who understands what we're doing, who can see the future, who have, once we share a vision with them, who can see that this could become reality.
Right.
And that's eventually what we did. There's been many situations where we felt like we were dismissed, even with other sort of supposed champions of female founders that, not all female VCs right. Like to invest in female founders either. So you think sometimes that you found somebody who, see eye to eye, that this is a great industry, that this is a need. I'm sure you've had this need. And even then, and that could be even more crushing because you feel like these people should have been there for you. But it's the same thing. They don't believe in you. Find somebody else that does. And if you have enough conversations, first of all, and also enough conviction in what you're doing, and you just continue to build and build and build, so you have more to show for it, eventually people will believe in you. And that's what's allowed us to, get to where we are today and to continue.
Right.
I don't think it stopped. I think even, once you get to even a more sort of, illustrious state, like for us, we've been on Shark Tank, we've been on the Today Show. We feel pretty good about our progress. There's still so much more to go. We are still at the very beginnings of our journey, but we still feel like, we are getting initial recognition for what we're doing. And there's still, just a lot of people who still don't believe or don't, whatever. But eventually, you just learn to disregard the people who don't matter, believe in yourself, and keep going, keep doing the things that's necessary to make the vision into reality.
Yeah, 100% agree with that one too. Yeah. And what you mentioned in that statement is the abundance mindset. Mm-hmm. Most people stop after the first no, and that's a big no. You don't do something like that. You have to keep, like you said before, you have to keep believing in yourself and your mm-hmm. vision, and like what you're doing will change the world. And no one can believe in that vision except for you. Mm-hmm. And you're right. You have to keep on having conversations with people. Yep. If people don't believe in you or don't so-and-so, don't dwell on it. Don't sit there and feel sorry for yourself. That's not the
Absolutely.
case in the business world at all.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and most of the time, all you need is one. You know,
Absolutely.
all you need is
And you
one.
know, it goes together, you know, not being afraid to share your idea in the first place. And then once you hear a couple of no that are like, oh, this is ridiculous, still do not let that, you know, make you shy from sharing your idea.
Right.
For us, you know, the idea evolved quite a bit from the very beginning. And it's only evolved because we talked to more and more people. You know, they added in their input as to what would make sense. And that eventually evolved into a narrative of a business that made a lot of sense. And I think most ideas are like that, where, you know, beginning, you have some spark of genius in it, but not all of it is, you know, fully baked. And the only way to get it to a state where, you know, it's a full-fledged business idea is, you know, one, putting it in front of real people and have people try, or, you know, continue to talk to people, experts in the industry, to get input and to, you know, really listen to what is needed in the market. But as you do that, you will hear a lot of, you know, naysaying as well. And that's why they haven't done anything. That's why they haven't started this idea, because, you know, they don't have the same vision you do. So don't let that stop you either.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that statement too. And just reminds me of how when we started Asian Hustle Network, some people did tell us it was a bad idea. Like, what are you guys creating this group for? What's the point of it? Like we already interact with each other, you know? Well, we kind of believe that we wanted a safe space for us to listen to your story, you know, empower entrepreneurs. But even so, some people thought that was a bad idea. You know, you just have to believe in your vision.
Yeah, I mean, now that our group has grown to over 55,000 members, we're bound to get people who are never pleased with the way we do things, right? And that goes back to the same mentality, right? I think we're always going to have haters, like we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast.
It's a good thing.
It is a good thing. But I think that also drives us forward in doing the things that we love, right? And it's really about the mentality to break through that. So, yeah, love that.
Absolutely. And look at what you guys have built. I mean, people are such fervent fans of the group. You know, it's really hard to find a group where the engagement and the excitement is so high and people support each other so much. So, you know, you really have to feel very proud of yourself. And imagine, you know, had you listened to the haters and the and the naysayers, this group would not exist. So, and what a sad loss that would have been in the world. So,
yeah, definitely.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I would love to know, you know, just to get into a little bit deeper, I would love to know, you know, how you guys are using AI and data to determine what type of products, like how does that all work and how does a database work and what kind of output is that putting out for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, that Amy had built this database to help to find her own ingredients in skincare that would work for her atopic dermatitis. Where she gathered scientific studies, where she gathered, you know, clinical trial results, as well as consumer testimonials and reviews. So as we found that, and then she ran machine learning algorithms to understand how different individual ingredients affect different people's skin based on environmental factors, who they are, their ethnicity, their specific concerns that they're, you know, trying to resolve, whether it's acne or anti-aging, etc. So as we started Proven, we continue to build upon this database so that now it is the largest database in beauty, encompassing more than 4,000 scientific papers from all kinds of, you know, peer-reviewed journals and more than 20 million consumer reviews and testimonials. So basically anything that we can find that is relevant, that doesn't read like, you know, a fake review, we've incorporated. And Amy has, you know, cleaned the data, analyzed it, ran, you know, sophisticated AI algorithms through it to extract this kind of information. From that, we then, you know, Brian, you talked about when you have a great idea, you know, you start attracting good people. In fact, after we got some initial press for our idea, I think we were on TechCrunch, the head of dermatology at Stanford University reached out to us and said, you know, I believe that this is going to be the future of dermatology. I want to partner with you. When I first saw that note, I was like, this is a spam message. Like, who is like pranking me as if they were the head of dermatology at Stanford? And then it turned out it was a real, you know, it was a real, you know, Dr. Homeg who wanted to partner with us. So we then started working with him to actually formulate the the skincare products based on the insights from the database. So we ask the database some questions, we confirm with Dr. Holman, we add other ingredients, et cetera, and that process went on for many months. And that's how we came up with the proven skincare, first of all, the dermatological foundation, as well as the skincare products that we now have. And in fact, the technology that we have, the Skin Genome Project, had won MIT's AI Technology of the Year award.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Which, we beat out 400 other AI companies to win the award. Not consumer companies, but actually AI companies that are also using AI to solve hard problems. So I think we felt vindicated that of people in the beginning who didn't believe that we could infuse real technology and AI into this, because we not only can create a tremendous technology stack, but also use that to create great skincare products as well.
Right. Wow, that is amazing. That's super important. I feel like a lot of skincare products are just like a very tunnel vision. None of them really think about incorporating data into it.
Yeah.
So
Do you want to dive into your Shark Tank experience too? How it was like? What was the application like? And we're super proud of you. We watched that clip a couple of times for this podcast, and just want to hear more about it.
Thank you so much. So early on in our journey, one of the producers at Shark Tank reached out and was like, we don't usually feature skincare companies, but yours seem really special, really differentiated. I, want to see if you want to be on the show. At that time, it was very early on. We were still developing products with a dermatologist. We were like, this is not the right timing, because I've seen the show. I know what they care about. They care about numbers. They care about sales. They care about, products being in stores, whatever it is. And so I told the producer, we'll be in touch later. But then later on, like a year later, when we had a successful beta with real numbers, that producer left the show. And I was like, oh, crap, So, but then I found out that Shark Tank has open casting calls all around the country. So it was like, if one producer was interested, maybe others will be too. So I just went through an open casting call to just earn our way in. And, each step of the way, impress them with our story, with where our company is, and made it through each step of the way. The first open casting call, that person was interested, and then the next person was interested, and they tried the product, they liked it, and the next person was interested, and then you had to fill out a stack load of papers. It was so much papers to fill out, because also it's investing, it's also TV, it's all this stuff. So it was like a full-time job for a couple of weeks to get through all of these all of this paperwork. And then we finally had a film date, and that was super exciting. I was very nervous several months before that, because, with these things, it feels like it'll be the, life or death of your company if it goes well, which is really not a good mindset to have, because, there are always more opportunities. There are always other ways to make companies work. But nevertheless, that's how I felt. So I was very nervous preparing for my pitch. And then the filming was very interesting. I didn't get a deal, because the deal itself wasn't the goal that I went on to have. But still, most of the people that filmed with me, many of them got deals. So I did feel a little bit like, I wish somebody on there offered us something. But still, it's okay. Just to be on the show is already great. Right. And then after you film, so for me, we filmed in like August of 2019. And they don't tell you whether you're going to be on the show or not, because they film many more segments than they actually show. So if they don't show it and I didn't get a deal, then all of that work would have been for nothing. Flying to Portland to do a open casting call, and then doing all the paperwork and all the pitching, one after another. And then in April, a couple of weeks before they wanted to air, they emailed me and were like, you are going to air you like in 2 weeks. And we're like, oh my gosh. And my entire team was so excited, because they all knew how much work we had put in, as a company, like in designing the billboards and the set and all this stuff, to the point where my team had stopped asking me like when we're going to air, because they don't want to, made me sad because we had put in all this work and there was nothing to show for it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we got that, it was just such a huge relief. It was also right after the initial sort of situation of COVID, where we had some bad effects in the beginning for COVID, and we really needed a little pick me up. So that was just a great pick me up situation. Oh, here's my daughter. Okay. And then it aired and really brought us great traffic and notoriety. Oh, is she naked? Okay. Hey, Amber. Okay, you're sweeping? Okay. And then,
okay.
And then, right after the Shark Tank aired, our segment, which we filmed for the Today Show, aired shortly thereafter. So we ended up having a tremendous May because of all this great traffic that was coming in, and just additional credibility of having been on these national shows.
Right.
So it turned out that hard work was worth it. Believing in ourselves was worth it. And we are really grateful for having had these opportunities.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, Brian, I'm also grateful for not having been afraid to put myself out there, to put our company out there. In fact, when Shark Tank first aired, I didn't watch it the first day because it's weird.
Yeah.
To watch yourself on national TV. You don't know how silly they could edit you to make you look, and they certainly make a lot of people look very ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was definitely that fear, but it's absolutely worth it to get over it and to just go for it.
Yeah, it's a really fun experience. I mean, I can kind of talk from my own personal experience too. Well, I applied for this reality investment show. Same thing, casting, producing. It's really nerve-wracking, And we still to this day don't know if we're gonna get called yet, but we'll find out a year from now to see if they're gonna call us. But you're right, it is pretty nerve-wracking because as you're talking to producers, they're asking certain questions. They're doing sound check, they're doing mic check, they're testing out your camera abilities per se. It's you have to say some words, talk about your description, and set in a lot of footage so they can cut it to send to the producer. It's an interesting thing, So I do commend you a lot for doing it. It's very nerve-wracking. It's not as easy as you think it is. It's a lot of preparation involved. So I do definitely understand a lot on that side.
Yeah, and it's very true that you say this is a make or break kind of thing. I feel like a lot of people who go on Shark Tank have that same mentality, but it's really important that, although you guys didn't get a deal, I love that you guys have that mentality that, this is a great opportunity and it brought a lot of awareness and credibility to Proven Skincare. So that's really great.
Yeah, I mean, we were super excited to continue. We want to definitely see more of your success. So how can our listeners reach out to you and find out more about you, Ming?
And you can find out more about us at provenskincare.com. That's PROVEN skincare.com. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ming. We really appreciate everything, with your insight and your experiences. I think it was really refreshing to hear. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you guys so much. It was so fun to just get to chat with you. I would love to come back for an encore in a few months.
Amazing.
We'll love to have you back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to the show.
We would like to get to the top 10 on iTunes, so be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We release an episode every single Wednesday, so stay tuned.
Thank you guys so much.